Okay, welcome to the Sunday session. I want to make this a bit of a fun, cool, relaxed, and interactive stream. Thank you, guys. Now that my mute is off, you guys can hear me. So I wanted to talk about there's a government inquiry happening here, and they're looking for submissions. And even though it's here in Australia, anyone can submit from anywhere. And I'll talk a little bit about it. Thanks, Dee. I had myself on mute by accident. Sorry, guys. So I want to talk about the inquiry, and then what I thought would be like a fun thing to do is I'm going to show you the page of where you can go and do a submission. There's a super easy, quick way of doing it, and I thought it might be fun if we do it together. Because if you're anything like me, you have a million things that you want to do, and it's a matter of like, oh, when am I going to get to that? And so I thought it might be a fun thing to do together. And I also want to play for you. Thanks, Joe. I also want to play for you the interview on this podcast about the inquiry, because it's really good. Like it gives you a bit of a background into it, and I won't talk too much about it because it's all in there. But also I found it was really like, I resonated with almost everything that these guys said. They were in a different cult. Not that I've ever been in Scientology, but everything that I've heard about it, it was just spot on and very similar experiences. And you know when sometimes you know something, but someone says it in a different kind of way, or they describe it slightly different, or give it a bit of a different context, and it's sort of, and I just found it helpful. So I think it might be helpful to exes as well, or anyone that's, you know, had any sort of coercive controlling experience. So I hope you guys will join me. I'm going to, as I said, at the end, I'm going to show you the actual inquiry page. But all right, let's start. I'm going to show you. So this is a podcast interview on the Victorian inquiry into cults with Catherine and Ryan Carey. So it says the Parliament of Victoria has launched an inquiry into the recruitment methods and impacts of cults and organised fringe groups. So recruitment methods, like, because Scientology, a lot of their recruitment methods are very underhanded. Like they'll do safe pointing, they won't, on their literature and their front groups, they won't say who they are exactly on the personality tests. I actually remember, I've never had any experience with Scientology. I've never been in it. I do remember many, many years ago, I was in London and they had the personality tests set up, like all the tables set up. But it didn't say anything about Scientology. It was like, you know, find out about your, you know, something about self-development, improvement, personality testing, right? So as a young person in their 20s, I'm all like, yeah, I'm more into like seeking something higher, you know. That's when you're kind of learning and discovering yourself and finding your identity and all that. So I did the test, and then, now that I think about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was Scientology, and I had no idea because I don't say that. So, and then the impacts, obviously, which is good because anyone who's had any experience, it can cover it, you know, covers it all. Okay, so submissions are open till 31st of July. So that's why I thought it'd be good for us to do it together tonight, today. It's night in Australia. And so it says, if you or anyone you know has been involved with a cult that has a presence in Victoria, Australia, you're highly encouraged to make a submission. So this is where I believe it would be open to anyone around the world, because obviously Scientology does have a presence in Victoria. So any group that's based in Victoria, anyone can have it put in a submission. So there's plenty of cults. There's also an anonymous questionnaire option available for those who might not wish to make a submission. So there's two ways you can do a full submission, or you can do a super quick questionnaire. So I'll show you those at the end. Yeah, so it's actually good that they have this option of doing a questionnaire, because it's so simple and easy and quick, and you can also be anonymous. So that's great. And all right, so let's listen to the podcast, guys. I hope you will join me if you have. As I said, I want it to be an interactive stream. Share your thoughts and comments, please. So here we go. Yeah, Joe, it is great that it's so listen to this podcast with me. You'll see why it's so great, because it can have an impact beyond just the state of Victoria. Hi, Manning. Thank you for joining us. All right, let's listen to this interview. If you can let me know if you can hear it okay. Parliament.
Wait, is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Really?
Okay, sounds like
That's
you guys
right.
can hear
Switch
me
to Aussie
now.
Broadband and pay just one.
Methods and impacts of cults and organised fringe groups, which opened last month. I couldn't wait to hear more about Ryan and Catherine's work and share how others can get involved. So first up, can you each give me a bit of background about the personal experiences that led you into the advocacy work that you're doing now?
So I grew up in a cult in Geelong called the Geelong Revival Centre. It's quite an old cult. The cult leader died last year. Was he 92?
Or at 90, no, in his 90s.
In his 90s. My father was his right-hand man, second in charge of the cult. It was a global cult. And when I left, I had a lot of information through what stuff my father had said, and I'd seen a lot of damaged people, and I've spoken to other people from cults, and it just seemed to be a non-stop meat grinder of people going into these cults and then coming out damaged in the other end. And it's something that I felt that we needed to stop at the root, really. The thing that made me leave the cult, the main reason was watching how people with mental illness got treated. I suffered from anxiety, CPTSD, and I was getting help secretively while I was in the cult. And I was watching the cult leader put people out of fellowship for psychiatric issues. I watched him put a person out that was made depressive, and I was just watching this cycle of people that were suffering from these conditions and being put out of fellowship, or being told that they were broken, or it was the devil that was causing it, or it was their fault for their psychiatric conditions. And on top of that, I think it goes into the podcast, The Horrors of the Geelong Revival Centre, in the Secrets We Keep podcast with Richard Baker. And yeah, when I left, I left with a mission, really. So I left wanting to dump enough information out there that survivors felt that they weren't the only ones, and they're not crazy. It wasn't them. It was that cult that did it to them. So that's how it all started, really.
So how interesting is that? It's so similar to what I've heard about Scientology. These people with mental health conditions, and they're just being ignored. They're not getting the help that they need. And what else did he say in there? I've forgotten it now. But he's saying, he got out, and all he wants to do is put the information out there, and that's what's happening across all of this, our community as well, all these people coming out and speaking. So it's fantastic.
Yeah, and we look.
And the name of the cult is a Geelong Revival Centre, which was in Victoria. I don't know all the details about it, but it was a big deal. Miriam Francis knows a lot about them as well. And so this podcast, it's called Let's Talk About Sex, and Miriam actually did an interview on there not long ago, maybe about a month or two ago as well.
We've both got a background in trades, both got a background as volunteer firefighters. I think we're used to fixing the problem and not just, I think we're just used to.
We wanted to put the fire out and then clean up the mess instead of just trying to clean up the mess while the fire kept going.
Yeah. And so, which led us down this journey, and it was good. There was good survivors from our group that joined up with us. We, Gary McPherson, he started the Facebook page, me and him were mates, and we discussed it. He started up, got going, which is good. They ended up being about 320 ex-members that we could start putting information there that, hey, we could group you together. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to do this by yourself. And that ended up being a very positive experience. And then it was just on and on.
Catherine, did you want to share anything about your background with this organisation as well and what led you into this advocacy work?
Yes, I joined when I was 19. So
Unmute, that would be helpful.
sort of looked at, could you get it shut down? But you see these places, looking on the Facebook page and seeing
So all the links are in my description of this video, but they've got this Stop Religious Coercion Australia website, Facebook group, TikTok and Instagram. So I think that's how these guys got started. They just started a group and people came out. All right, back to the interview.
came along and joined the cult then. And obviously Ryan and I got married and had children and everything like that. And I left during COVID, about 18 months after Ryan. And for a while, I didn't really want to, it wasn't sort of top of my mind doing any advocacy work until it was looking on the Facebook page and seeing the number of damaged people, but damaged in different ways, but all a very similar story. A lot of them grew up in that place and had no choice about attending there, and others had joined when they were at a really vulnerable point in their life. And it was like a meat grinder just watching these people come out the other side. And we talked about, there's got to be something that can be done to stop these places. And we sort of looked at, could you get it shut down? But you see these places and they get shut down and someone just starts up another one. It's just they phoenix themselves into another organisation. They splinter and become different or they go underground. And so we sort of wanted to look at where could we try and look at stopping the actual abuse. If they want to worship in that way, it should be fine. It's more a matter of how do we prevent the abuse happening.
Coercion.
And so I'd seen on the algorithm really got us on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok, and that's sort of where we'd seen the religious coercion. And then the laws are changed in Queensland to actually make it in a domestic situation a criminal offence for coercive control. And that was sort of the catalyst for us going, well, hang on, what about organisations' coercive control? And that was sort of what. So
I had the same thought. So recently, across a lot of the states in Australia, they brought in coercive control laws. But as far as I understand, they relate to domestic violence. So that's a really positive thing because they found, that within domestic violence there's this coercive control. So they've outlawed them in many states. And I'm like, what about outside of domestic violence? What about in these groups? What about in, any situation? So it sounds like she's had the same idea.
Started our journey.
Because we were both aware that being in a cult is very similar to being in a domestic violence situation. And there's a light bulb moment when Catherine goes, well, I think this is how we hit it. And she brought up, the laws are being talked about in Queensland. And it fit our experience, and it just made a lot of sense that was the path we needed to go on and bring public awareness to hey, look, these are such similar situations. That's the solution for that. It is transferable to this situation that we're in. So we started dumping information online, what I knew about the cult, and we got everyone together. We done a couple of newspaper articles. Ryan Van Laar, who is an absolute genius of a man, he started interviewing people for a podcast, because podcasts get changed. Long format podcasts will get changed. He actually started secretly emailing out reporters and sitting down and having coffees with them to make sure that they're going to be the best compassionate person for the mix. And one of the guys he emailed was Richard Baker. Richard Baker grew up in Geelong. His dad nearly got sucked into the cults. He actually knew quite a few of the cult members itself. So that was the right fit. Ryan did an amazing job at facilitating that and seeing the opportunity there to make that happen. And Ryan himself is an amazing person. He is responsible for the blood test for melanoma. Quite an incredible individual who me and Catherine both love dearly. And he's on the podcast itself. But yeah, he brought that to light.
But when Richard approached us with the idea of interviewing us for the podcast, we thought about it and we decided if we're going to share our trauma, we were going to get something back in return, and we were going to use it instead of just letting it be trauma porn for people to listen to and then never think about again. We were going to use it to fuel change if we could. So that was when we really started knuckling down.
It was an interesting.
That's interesting. The trauma porn. It was on the interview with Jamie Mustard last night that T did, A Voice Down Under. He mentioned something about that, like you kind of become this object or freak that people look at, because you've got this weird story to tell. So yeah, that's really interesting. They're like, well, if we're going to be this trauma porn, let's use it for something positive.
Interesting time too, because at that stage, people were actually too frightened to talk. A lot of people had family connections into the place. And me being me, I wanted to see the whites of my eyes. I wanted them to know it's me. I'm going to use my own name and show them I'm not afraid of them.
There was a lot of people who would speak, but they'd use a pseudonym.
And no, I want them to know it's me. I want them to know that I'm not afraid of them anymore. And that was good, because that was a catalyst for other people to start. Me and Catherine said we're both going to use our names, and then that started the ball rolling as far as other people speaking publicly, using their own names and actually standing up. And I think now if we put the shout out into the group, there's a lot of people that will actually talk. There's a lot of people willing to talk. It's a hard thing to ask somebody to do that. I know it's not a light thing. I still have family that are in the cult, and once you talk, that relationship, any hope, like it's already dead. But it's doubly dead if you talk about the horrors of that place, because they see you as a dog returning to its own vomit. The minute you speak about the horrors of that place, you are the worst person on the planet. And it wasn't a decision that I think me and Catherine took lightly to talk, but we knew if we didn't talk, that place would get away with it. And we weren't prepared to let that happen at all. And at the slightest, at the best hope, it was, hey, let's stop the victims getting sucked into there. Let's maybe save people from going in. But now it's a different story. So it all started with that.
It's so incredible. And I mean, I think.
Well, guys, what do you think of all that? Like everything he just said sounded to me exactly like Scientology. He's talking about it was difficult to decide to speak up. Many people still have family in there. There's family disconnection. But then he's like, we wanted to use our names. We wanted them, to look in my eyes. It's, yeah. What do you guys think? It just sounds so like the people who were coming forward from the ex-Scientologists who were saying, well, I'm out here and I'm talking about it and I'm using my name and whatever. And then later he says, very Scientology. Then he says, it started out about, let's just get the information out there to stop people going in, right? And now it's become something more. And that really reminds me of what's happening with all the protest movement. It was really about, let's get out there and talk literally during the protests and tell people what it is. And now it's like, well, there's other activism like that we can do.
that's a really big driver in why people talk to me on my podcast as well, is just to try and protect other people. But coming out with this mission, a lot of people come out of a group like that and they want to take that specific group down because of their experiences. And what's so incredible about what you've done is you've looked at it from a holistic perspective, cultic groups and how they operate, and brought in other people with those experiences to try and affect change. And it's so incredible. So let's start with Stop Religious Coercion Australia and what you're looking to achieve with that organisation and how people can get involved.
So we initially wanted to form it probably about a year or so ago, probably more than that. But we had a gag order put on us during the podcast that we couldn't speak publicly. So we
put it on hold,
which we didn't want to do. But it was always sitting there that we had to formalise and legitimise and go forward that way and start a public push. We stuck to that main mission because we wanted to keep it to coercion, because that was the tool that the cult uses to control its members. So we kept it very focused in that path. So that's the reason we started it.
So we'd set up the Facebook group first and the TikTok about the same time. And we'd invited a few other ex-members who had really good skills in different areas, asked if they would like to help us with it, because we've only got certain skills that we can use, and we knew that we couldn't do everything because it's a big job. So we thought, all right, this is the stuff we can do. Let's find the people who can do other tools to get us across the line. But we also wanted anyone to join the Facebook group just so they could feel like they had somewhere that they could put things up and say, I know people in this group are going to understand what I'm saying. I've been in a religious organisation that used coercive control, and I thought it was just me is a common one. I thought I was the only one who'd suffered this.
We'd got to a certain level with the advocacy where we needed to pull in other cult victims or other advocates.
That was the other thing we were looking for. We knew it couldn't be just a ex-Geelong Revival Centre group. We wanted more than that. Even though
us ex-Geelong Revival people had put our nose down and bum up and we're willing to do the work. But we got to a stage where we realised that, hey, look, we know that our story is replicated across Australia. A lot of our ex-members listen to your podcast, so the similarities across the board, we're well aware of this, and that we really needed to stop working in our own silo and start opening it up. Also, there needed to be a point where the broader population could see the work being done and understand and get to join that sort of push. Having a closed survivor group is great, but it's only for ex-members, and the outside world might not know what's going on in that environment, and that needs to be a protected environment for ex-members to feel safe in. That's why we started up the Facebook, the TikToks, the Instagram. I flipped out my phone and started doing videos at the start of it. I think it took me about 80 takes for the first video. So
only 60 for the second.
60 for the second, and I can't watch the older ones because I'm like, oh man. And then Catherine's like, just leave the infections in there. That's all good. So, but yeah, that's when we started really pushing with the group. We had the meeting with Christine Cousins, which was amazing. Was absolutely amazing. We also needed to know that we've got this great podcast there, but there needs to be a groundswell of people that know what's going on. So we started the group and started pushing, really.
Amazing. And so the bigger picture and what has come of this initial meeting, I don't know how long ago it was, with Christina Cousins, is there is this current Victorian Parliament inquiry into the recruitment methods and impacts of cults and organised fringe groups. So, I mean, incredible that this is happening. Can you tell me what this inquiry is looking into and how people with experiences in these groups in Victoria can get involved? So they're looking into how cults recruit people and the behaviours that they use to control them. So it isn't anything to do with beliefs that people have or beliefs that the groups have, because no one's here to tell people this is how you should be worshipping and this is how you can't worship the way you want to. But it's more looking at the group if a group's trying to control someone under the guise of their religious freedoms, that's not actually okay. And it's also, I don't think there's many religions in the world that say you should be able to be controlled by someone else. So most of them preach about, the golden rule of treating others as you treat yourself. And that's definitely not what happened in the place we grew up. And it's not what happens in so many of these cults. And they're also very interested, I was really pleased to see, in how they recruit, because all of these cults are preying on vulnerable people and people who are in often desperate situations, people who have had traumatic events happen to them and are looking for comfort, people who are lonely and looking for community. And so I think if we can drill down into that, we can find a way that they can continue worshipping their God or their faith or their yoga, or if it's a multi-level marketing scheme, anything they want, they can continue to do that, because that in itself is not the issue, but it's when the people running the place are actually controlling
who you can marry, you know, where you can live,
your finances,
what you're spending your money on and things like that. That is when the government's really interested in hearing from people so that they know the actual tools that these places are using in order to control them.
You should be going to go to your church and come out the same or better than when you when you got there.
And there's plenty of churches that are like that. When people go, they go on, you know, whatever day of the week they want to go, and they leave, and then they don't have to think about it obsessively until the following week when they go again.
Look, a lot of people from the cult that I grew up with, a lot of kids that are now adults, it's surprising the amount of numbers that have been diagnosed with CPTSD. And that goes through the controlling and fearful stuff they put in our head. There's so much that needs to be fixed in these situations. And it's great. We've got the parliamentary inquiry. There's a lot. It's all open now. It's open for people to tell their stories. But it's been the Wild West as far as cults go. And you know, because you see it every week. These places have been ungoverned, unchecked, and unruly, really. You know, everyone should have a right to worship, but no one has the right to cause permanent damage to people. And when you're in one of these places, you feel like you are owned by the cult leader. You feel like you're absolutely owned by the cult leader, and you don't feel like you have any rights. You're just there to obey, and it's a horrible place to be, and it needs to stop, really. You know, it's been the Wild West for too long, really.
But they've got their terms of reference are very clear that they're not interested at all in what the actual worship is of the group. Which is amazing.
Which is good.
What would you pay for award-winning
Right,
internet?
guys,
How about $1? Wait, is that right?
Aussie. Oi. Marie says, my grandfather was human trafficked by Bernardo's boys' home in the 1920s. Stolen from his father and sent to Australia. Wow. Was that from the UK or something? It still affects my family till this day. That's right. Like so much, generational trauma and the long-term effects. So he was talking about so many ex-members suffering from PTSD. So yeah, interesting. Let's see if the ad has stopped. Oh, okay. Let me see.
To deliver a deep, luxurious.
I'm going to mute it for you guys while the ad's playing. I can still hear it. It's a little bit annoying. But yeah, really interesting, right? So many things I can relate to just by hearing other stories from Scientology. Thanks for being here, everyone. Yeah, as I said, at the end of this, I want to go into a page where the inquiry is, go show super ways of putting in a position, and we can do it together and we can do. That'll be awesome for if you're already. Gosh, this ad is taking forever. 5 seconds left. Come on. Here we go.
Yeah, I might actually quote a portion of the definitions that were provided in the inquiry because I was like really impressed with these. And so it says, a cult is best understood as a group defined not by its beliefs but by its behaviour. While the term is sometimes applied to fringe religious, spiritual or ideological movements, it more accurately refers to groups that use manipulative or controlling tactics to dominate members. Cults typically demand excessive loyalty to a leader or cause and employ various harmful coercive techniques that can harm individuals emotionally, psychologically, financially or even physically. And I mean, this is so important that we understand that this is not about religion and religious freedom. And you alluded to it earlier when you mentioned kind of yoga groups and, multi-level marketing. Like the cults come from all different types of organizations. It's even though your group is about religious coercion, it's also outside of religion. Religion can be used in such a powerful way to control people if a group is cultic because of that sort of spiritual element to it and the afterlife and the kind of ramifications of all of that stuff. But many of these other groups are not religious at all. So it's like, to me, so important to disentangle it from that religious freedom idea so that good religious people, of which there are so many who are practicing in ethical ways, should be on side with this inquiry completely, right?
I've been amazed by the positive feedback I've had from different faith groups. And I've had a lot of conversations with Muslims that when I go through the whole, what we're trying to achieve, this is what we're doing, and they're like incredibly supportive. And they're like, yeah, like we're not going to get any way. We'll actually support you. We think this is a good idea. We've had Christian groups when you explain it to them, hey, look, we want to make this safe. We want to make this place safe. Cults are no good for any mainstream religion at all. They're negative and they're negative for society in general. But when you explain, hey, let's make it safe, let's clean up these aspects. You know, I've had Jewish people say to me, like, this is good. Each mainstream religion has cult offshoots. It's not just Christianity that has this problem. We're talking about it from a Pentecostal Christian background because that's what I know. But I know this is replicated across the board. And there are people out there from every single faith group that will acknowledge it and want it stopped as well. So the Muslims are great. Like, you know, I had 2 Muslim men fitting my NBN this week, and I was sort of explaining it to them, and they were blown away. They thought it was fantastic, and then I love it. They bless your house, and they bless the car you came in and stuff like that. But it's really changed my perspective. We came from an environment where we were told that every other religion out there was bad and evil, and I think we were told the Catholic Church were the Antichrist, and the Muslims were going to be the scourge for the West and all this sort of stuff. And then at the end of the day, people are people. You know, people are people wanting to, you know, if they want to worship, they should be able to worship freely and safely. And I think that's a common problem for everyone. And I think that's something that everyone desires. And these cults occur normally when you get a charismatic cult leader that's got bad intent across any mainstream religion, or any religion wants to rise up and inflict his bad will on people, and they've never been put in check yet. So I think this is a very common problem. I think this is a language that we can broaden across the board and identify the risk, really.
Yeah, fantastic. And I just wanted to sort of rewind to the submissions process for the inquiry itself. So one thing I wanted to mention for anyone who might...
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about, obviously they're talking about, you know, freedom of religion and how this inquiry relates to that. And I'll show you on the page what it says in a minute as well, or at the end. But he says something about worshipping a leader. And from my understanding, the difference between what a religion is and what a cult is, and they can be combined. But so religion can give you tools and sort of ideas about ways to live your life, compared to a cult that actually controls your life and controls every component of it: your family, your friends, your financial, your living arrangements, you know, all that sort of thing. And another thing that's been pointed out is worshipping a leader as opposed to, you know, having something to believe in, like a human leader who's everyone needs to bow down to. So yeah.
Be considering making a submission is that, you know, a lot of people, they'll get in touch with me, but they feel that they can't talk about their experience because of fears of defamation. But if you make a submission and it's published under a parliamentary inquiry, that is under parliamentary privilege. So that means that there can't be any legal action as a result of that submission. So I would want to encourage people to think about maybe submitting if they've been potentially afraid to speak openly about it in other avenues. And I guess I just want to ask, what sort of people should be submitting to this inquiry?
Anyone affected by a cult or one of these coercive control groups, anyone. If you've got a family member that's been sucked in, definitely do it. If you've got a friend that you're mourning the loss of, and I get messages flat out, and you know, I do get messages from people that have a real sorrow for friends that have been sucked into these groups and all of a sudden they've lost them. Put a submission in. You know, if you're a man, there's plenty of male victims out there that are probably too afraid to talk. You know, but I know plenty of men that have lost their families to cults or been destroyed by these places. Put a submission in. Anyone that's been affected. If you're disabled, put a submission in. If you feel that your language or your written understanding is not great, contact us. We'll help you put it in. We're not going to put words in your mouth, but we'll sit down and make sure your voice is heard.
And the other thing is, if you feel like there's a lot of damaged people out there who probably mightn't have the capacity to write a submission, but there's also a questionnaire you can do on the website. And so you can just answer some questions about them and they can just get a general overview. So you don't have to go into as much detail as you might need to in a submission, but you can just do the questionnaire. And if you do a submission, you can do the questionnaire as well. You can do both of them. With the parliamentary privilege, it's only, you can't republish your submission yourself and be under parliamentary privilege. It's only what the parliament publishes for you. And you can also, if you're worried about your submission being read by someone who you might feel like you would be unsafe or anything, Parliament can redact your name and any identifying details as well. That's part of the submission process. They're happy to do that for you. They want your submission more than they need your name put out there.
It's mainly if you've been affected by a cult in Victoria or if you're connected to that cult in Victoria. So I'll make that clear.
Yes.
There's been a bit of a fad I've noticed, and you would have noticed it as well, about cults have lately have threatened litigation to silence people. I get this so much. And I always wonder, would they spend $100 grand to have all their dirty secrets put out in the open? But look, they do threaten litigation, and it is a scary experience. Do they go through with it? Very rarely, but occasionally they do, and it normally backfires. It's something that I know is when somebody threatens you with that, it's daunting. This is your opportunity to talk. This is your one shot to put a submission in where you can tell your story, and you do not have any fear of that. There will be no blowback on the individual. And it's the one time you can tell your story and it has major impact. A lot of us carry the sorrow of people lost. And there's people that aren't with us now that will never tell their story. And a lot of us carry that every day. And there's a lot of people that are affected by it. And it's the one opportunity that you can make a difference. We get it right in Victoria, this can roll across the states. I know New Zealand are looking.
So I just wanted to talk about that last little bit. What do you guys think of all that? I mean, everything that they just said just so relates to Scientology for me. A couple of important points. You can submit anonymously. Because it's a government inquiry, there's parliamentary privilege, which means you don't have to, there's no repercussions, or, you know, your details don't have to go out there. Something similar to Scientology's repercussions, you know, with the Scientology fair gaming and all that BS. This is a way that you can tell your story if you don't want to put your name down there. Fear of family disconnection. It's talking about people lost to the cults that never made it, and being able to speak up for them. So it's just incredible how familiar it all sounds. Marie says it took 50 years for the lost kids of the UK to get us sorry. Yeah. It took many years for the Indigenous and Aboriginal people of Australia to get us sorry too. All right, let's keep going, guys.
And this is the first time this will be done ever. And look, if you do one thing, do this, please.
Yeah, and I want to just reiterate what you were saying there about for people in other states in Australia.
Manning, good question. So he says, I didn't hear this as allowing you to remain anonymous. I said your name would be redacted. So there's two ways you can submit, and I'll just share it for you, but I'm going to go through it at the end really quickly and easily. So I'm going to share this tab. There's two ways you can submit. The first one is a reminder that to everyone that deadline is 31st of July. So you can make a submission, which you basically, you know, write something down and post it on here, not post it, but submit it on here. And the other way is this super quick questionnaire, share your experience. And on here, you can remain anonymous. I was going to show you at the end, but I'll see if I can just find it quickly here. Yeah, you definitely have the option to remain anonymous. But let's do it together at the end of this. All right, let's go back. Oh, I'll just see if there's any other comments from you guys as well. And yeah, there is some information about you can redact and all that sort of stuff, but I'll show you in the end. As if cults never infiltrate the government. Oh, look, I mean, I can't say for sure, but we're pretty strict with things like that here. This is a state government of Victoria. The people who have decided to go ahead with this, you know, I think they've got good intentions. Let's go back to scrolling up. What the ex-Scientologists are doing with all the protesters is great. Not sure specifically what you meant about that, but yeah, it's all great. Yeah, share your experience feature. All right, let's go back to that.
I think we'll all have our eye on this, and the hope is that actually if a Victorian inquiry kind of comes out with some really solid recommendations, that other states will look to that as an example, you know, and ideally not have to go through an inquiry process as well, because it can be a pretty full-on experience.
Yeah,
that's the hope for us too. We think that if the Victorian government have
other states,
this point was involved.
Yeah, and I want to just reiterate what you were saying there about for people in other states in Australia. I think we'll all have our eye on this, and the hope is that actually if a Victorian inquiry kind of comes out with some really solid recommendations, that other states will look to that as an example, and ideally not have to go through an inquiry process as well, because it can be a pretty full-on experience.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the hope for us too. We think that if the Victorian government have taken this on really well, they've been really supportive of us. They were very supportive when we went to speak with them, and they've taken on board what we've said, and they're willing to look at an issue that's been around for as long as, some of these cults have been around for generations and generations of children being churned through in the meat grinder. And so we're hopeful that the Victorian government can come out with, as you said, some really solid recommendations, and it means that other states won't have to go through and people won't have to tell their stories.
The Victorian system as far as parliamentary inquiries is really robust, and it's very effective, and it's known globally as being a very robust and effective system that we can do some really, really good work in this situation. If you look at other parliamentary inquiries and the outcomes and the amount of detail that's gone in and how far they're willing to go with recommendations, I'm very confident that we can do a lot of good in this space. I'm so happy that they're starting to be inundated with submissions. I'm so pleased, but please do not stop, because this is a big problem and we've opened that Pandora's box.
So I think this is a really important part of this is, okay, it's just the state of Victoria that's doing this inquiry, but really it covers everything. And once they do it, the information will be there. My understanding of how these inquiries work is that, they do look at the factors that come into play. They're looking at the impacts and they're looking at recruitment methods. So they will cover all of that. And once you have that information, that's how governments then can put policies and laws into place. So you have to do that investigation work first. So I do believe that what they've just said, other states can use that information. You don't have to start from scratch again, and even federally. What do you think, guys? Let's see what you're saying in the chat. 14 cult members in Australia got charged this year. Things are changing. Marie, what story was that? Was that the one where I know that there was, sounds gruesome, trigger warning, there was a young child that had diabetes and they wouldn't let her take her medication and she died. That was a religious cult, I believe. Yeah.
And finally, there's light coming in to a shameful part of society that people have felt ashamed to talk about it. Please talk. You don't have to be ashamed. That shame isn't yours. It's those cult leaders or those people in those groups that have done it. It's their shame. They've made you hide it. This is time for you. You can talk. You can stop this. So the more submissions in, the better. Really, it is empowering. And please. So if you've got to get in touch with it, we've got people that will sit down and help you. Right, we'll get words in your mouth, but we just want everyone's voice to be heard. That's it.
Yeah, and you're totally right that for some people, it's particularly if their background has been in a very highly controlling group and maybe they haven't got a great education or whatever, it might be difficult for them to put a submission together and go through that process. But it's great that you can offer that help to them, or they can do that questionnaire.
Education in cults, like a lot of cults, homeschool. There's no emphasis on further learning or education as well,
especially for women.
Yeah, so it's important that people in that situation feel that they have a voice. And a lot of people are ashamed at their level of education or their written skill or their verbal skills. Like, we're okay with that. We love you.
How familiar does that sound? The no schooling and then people feeling ashamed of their, education level. Another thing, Scientologists, children, didn't get schooling. And very important that it's their shame. It's their shame, not yours.
Just want you to tell your story. That's it. It's not your fault. We love you. You'll be right.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe it comes as a surprise to the people.
We love you. You'll be right. It's such a Nazi thing. She'll be right, mate.
Receiving end of these submissions that you say that they've already inundated, but it's really, I'm telling this to people all the time. Since I started this podcast, it's just obviously it's a subject that has come up in my general conversations a lot more than it ever did before. And it's totally unsurprising to me because anytime I talk to someone about this subject, someone I've never met before, I'm like chatting to them at a bar, right? They will know someone who joined a cult. They'll have a family member who, like, it's so much more of a common experience than people actually realize. So I think this being the opportunity to kind of show legislators how big of a problem this is just, it can't be emphasized enough, like what a great opportunity it is.
I think for too long it's been put in that too hard basket. And they've got away with just saying, well, religious freedom. And nowadays with the way social media is and information flow, and people are getting the courage to talk, but podcasts like yourself is addressing this, and which we're grateful for. It's sort of like all this rubbish has been swept under the carpet. All of a sudden, it can't be swept under the carpet anymore. That there's a big pile there you can't hide. And in society, look, once you start talking about it, everyone knows somebody that's been affected by a cult or lost a family member by a cult, or even Geelong. Geelong's a big, small town, but once you say, oh, look, I was in the Geelong Revival Centre, oh, man, the stories that come up and the people affected, and you sort of like 2 degrees of separation by somebody that's been affected by that one place, let alone the hundreds and hundreds of other cults out there. And so it's 1,500 registered religions in Victoria. So there'd be...
And not all of them are registered as religions.
Yeah. And I'm starting not to be surprised now. Like, I thought like I was across it, and there's so many different ones that are starting to pop up that and now people are talking. I'll have somebody contacting about this one, and I think I've heard it all. And yeah, it seems like daily I'm getting my mind blown by another one, really. So, but their tools are all the same. They do the same thing across the board as far as coercion goes. They just give themselves different names, really.
Why pay full price? Unlock hotel savings.
I'll save you guys from the horrors of ads. Do you have any comments, questions? Please say hi in the chat. Please hit the like, set your notifications to all, and subscribe for that matter. So Marie says all cults thrive when they can isolate their control. I know, and he just said, that they're just the same. They're all doing this coercive control. They just all have different names.
Years, and I think everyone expects that I must have heard of every cult that exists. I'm getting emails all the time. Do you know this one? I'm like, no, never heard of them, because there's just for everyone that kind of winds up, there's another one that pops out again. So it's sort of, until we can name the behaviours and through these coercive control laws, I think that absolutely is. It makes total sense to me, and I wrote about this in my book as well. There has to be a way to deal with all of these things, and so I guess in terms of like what might be the future when we hopefully get some good recommendations from this inquiry, I just wondered, from your own experiences and others that you've heard about in your advocacy work, what are the main things you think we could be doing to better protect people from cultic groups and to help those who exit one of these high control organisations?
Renee Spencer, she's on TikTok, I think, as Exposing Cults.
Yeah.
She's very passionate about the idea of having education for kids, sort of in the same vein as teachers' consent laws, which we've now got in Australia. Kids should be shown ways to be aware of a high control or cultic group, signs to be aware of, because if you can give kids the tools to know what these groups look like, or if a group's slowly changing that they're already into one of these places, it can help them, prevent them being sucked in, or know when to extract themselves. A lot of cults really prey on teenagers. They know that teenagers are, just by their very nature, in conflict with their parents and are in a vulnerable situation, and also looking for community. So they're very susceptible. Very susceptible.
To give that like a little bit of context, Renee Spencer lost her own daughter to the Jesus Christians when she was a teenager.
Yeah. And she's got some amazing work that she's doing in that space. And it's such a great idea to be able to say, you're never going to be able to shut all of them down. Some of them will hide and go underground and things like that.
The idea is to make them mainstream, bring them into the light, make them mainstream. There has to be enforcement in this. We have to make this behaviour criminal, because it operates like a bikie gang or anything like that. Like, you look at a criminal organisation, the standover tactics, the threats, they just do it under the guise of religion or faith or spirituality. So there has to be an enforcement and protection, but
also education for the groups.
Yeah,
too, for them to.
This is what you should do, and rehabilitation, really.
Yeah, but also there's no training required for anyone who's becoming a leader of one of these groups. So that's an area that
there needs to be an auditing process where I would really love to see a system where, hey, look, whatever Baptist church down the road each year gets audited, their child safety policies get checked. Do you have really good child safety policies? Yes. All right, can we have a look at them? Yep, they're up to scratch. Do you have a reporting system for
Abuse.
abuse? Do you have mandatory? Yes, we've got that. This is our systems. We've got that. What else is there? Does your ministers have mental health first aid training as a minimum? I think that's incredibly important, because in that space, especially faith-based, it draws people with a lot of psychiatric issues. And you could have a schizophrenic person or a person with psychosis walk into a place like that and become incredibly damaged. And that could feed into that person's ideation to make it worse. I've seen that happen so many times. Or they'll start blaming that person like they're possessed and their mental illness is their issue. So I think giving these people an understanding of mental health and mental health first aid and stuff like that is crucial, because it's just a meat grinder for people like that. So that's one aspect that I think is critical.
But being able to say, this is a safe place to worship, they're getting audited, they're getting checked, and they're
even
up to the standard of...
Even I'd love to see like work safe posters for coercion in some of these places. So, I think you go to a building site and you've got work safe in your lunchroom, there's all these mandatory work safe posters on the wall. Hey, like, this is coercion and this is what to look at, this is a reporting number. Some really proactive stuff that could be done in this space, which would change it. If we get rid of the coercion, we can make these places safe. They're either going to play nice or they're going to disappear. And if they want to keep this behaviour, they deserve to disappear. They deserve to not exist. They cannot continue to keep doing the damage they're doing. They need to reform. And I think there's so much scope we can do, but it needs oversight, it needs governance, it needs auditing, it needs framework there to fix this issue.
And really. It also means that for people looking for a church or somewhere to worship, they can have it. They can have a little sticker on their door saying "safe place to worship." And
this is not a cult.
Yeah, we'll workshop what the sticker will say.
I think this is something that places of worship should strive to have. They should be proud if they can pass an audit every year and tell everyone, "Hey, this is a safe place to worship." Like, this is actually a good thing for you to do in an environment where a lot of these places get a lot of bad press. It should be something they strive for, and it could be a positive place for any religious or group to have. Hey, look, this place is free from coercion. This is a child safe place. We have systems and practices in place. One thing about the child safety is, like, my cult used to be proud of, all our Sunday school teachers have working with children's checks, and they used to carry on like that was a good thing. And yeah, it was a good thing, but the working with children check just means that person hasn't been caught yet if they're there. The pedophile that got caught in our cult had a working with children's check. There wasn't systems or processes in place to mitigate that risk. There wasn't a never alone with that child policy. There wasn't an ability to stop it before it happens. There wasn't an education program or whatever. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to clean up this space. It feels like when workplaces were in the Wild West back in the 60s and 70s and people were dying on the building site all over the place. Like, cults are like that. Like, they're like this unsafe workplace or unsafe place to be. Let's make them safe, really.
And while it is a lot of work, it's also not. Like, it's all these policies, like there's already child safe policies that if you have children in your organisation, you're supposed to have them, but they're not audited and things like that. So a lot of these organisations would already have all their child safe standards, all their mandatory reporting up to scratch. But if it's just a matter of having someone come once a year and check it and then giving them a big tick and saying...
And having a reporting hotline where people can reach out and say, hey, is this right? Or this has happened to me. Is this right? Actually putting a bit of fear into these leaders, because they get away with treating people horrendously. And you don't have any rights in that place. The minute that you're falling out of favour with the cult leader or the leader of that group, you are disposable. I think everyone needs to realise if you're in a cult or a high demand religion or one of these groups, you are a disposable asset to that leader. You have no rights. We need to give protection and rights to the people in this place so they're not disposable. And the leaders are now on notice. They have to behave or else. You behave, because I don't trust them to do it themselves because they haven't in the past. So
you're flipping the power dynamics. So now it's the people who have the power.
Yeah.
Not the leaders.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what you said earlier about, educating the groups themselves and rehabilitating them is so important too, because even if you have a leader who is consciously using those controlling tactics, you probably have many, many members who don't recognise that that's what's happening. So if those members can understand and recognise coercive control, they can start to see it. But I also think that there are many groups that wouldn't maybe technically have enough coercive control to maybe qualify as a cult, but they are using a few of these techniques. Yeah. And if they understood the damage of them, they would be happy to actually try and fix them.
100%.
We're looking at identifying before it gets too far. So we're working with great people. Like, there's some great people in the working group. Claire and Patrick McIver, legends.
Renee Spence,
Laura McConnell, and others. Like, we have some really great stuff we're working on to identify these groups before they tip over the edge, or maybe pull them back from the edge as well. Like, hey, you're getting a bit too far. this is behaviour. Let's pull it back a little bit. Let's just get you back into a safe level. So a part of the enforcement there is going to have to be a rehabilitation period or an opportunity to change, really. But yeah, there's some really good positive stuff that's being worked on currently, and it's exciting, really. Like some brilliant people too. Yeah, just some great people. So it's fun. It's not it's fun. It's inspiring, really.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Fun's probably not the
right word.
All right, guys. I'm interested in what you guys think about all of that last little bit that they were talking about. So they're looking at what can be put into place, like reforms, education, all that sort of thing. I think, just in my view, I've just noticed something they mentioned. Things like education in schools for kids. I think at universities would be awesome as well, and they do that now with all the SA, assaults at unis. Like I had to do was mandatory, online training thing on consent and SA. So something like that on coercive control and cults, I think would be an awesome idea. I'd like to know what you guys think that might be good ideas, because it's they do target universities and when people are young. There's some things that they talked about which I think probably won't work. Just things like mandatory reporting, as people have said. We have the working with children's check, sure, but it's, people are always going to have their first offence. At the moment in Australia, there's a crisis in the childcare industry. There's a lot of government money going into private entities to have these childcare centres, so they become all about profits. And it's recently come out about all the abuses that have happened. Just recently, in the last week, a couple of people, PDFs, have been arrested. And these people, it's a big story, but there's a lot of reform that needs to happen there. But obviously, I'm talking about it because it's in relation to working with children checks. Obviously, that's important, but it's not going to catch everyone. What else did he talk about? Mandatory reporting is already in place, but it's about educating these groups that they have to abide by them. Child safety, mental health, first aid training. I think they're all good ideas, but I mean, if you're in a cult, you just go, yeah, tick the box, I did this. It doesn't. I don't. Let me know what you guys think. I just think, it's just a way of ticking the box without actually having any change. But playing devil's advocate, if I look at it on the other side, if you have a young person going in, say, there's so many of these young people that you see in Scientology, and they're just, if they had to do some sort of training, awareness, at least, they might go do the training, ignore it, and then just continue with what the cult tells them to do. But it might be something that's in the back of their minds, like, oh, I did this mental, so they talked about mental health, and oh, we do need to look after children. We're responsible for them as adults. It might be something that's in the back of their mind that might trigger something one day. So Marie says, some members do know they are controlled by the cult, but they know if they say anything, they lose their family members. The churches blackmail members, yeah. And in aged care, it happens. Sure, I know. What else? Having posters on coercive control. Here's a. I think I heard about this being a requirement in the US in hotels where they have to have what is it? Like a trafficking. When a reporting number because they get so many people in from overseas. So something like that maybe would be positive. What do you guys think? But the part that I don't think would work is you can't have government-sanctioned cults or government-sanctioned religions. We have freedom of religion. Okay, so you can't go like they were talking about, oh, if someone wants to join the group, they can say, oh, well, this has been approved by the government. Like, you can't have that in a free and really just a free country. That's just crossing so many boundaries, right? And also it's false because a government can't go in and say this group is safe just because they do a check once a year, right? I think that's a pipe dream. That would never happen, and I don't think it should happen. I don't think you should have government-sanctioned religions. This one is okay and this one's not. But, these are just ideas, and I think in general, that's what this inquiry is hopefully about, so that we can put in some things that would be legal and would be work towards protection, especially in some of the vulnerable groups like children. They're talking because in the childcare sector now, they're looking at reforms because of all the issues that have come out. So things like always having to have at least a second person with a second employee with the worker. I mean, that's not going to protect everyone against SA, every child, but it's one thing. Anyway, if you guys have any thoughts, let me know. This is almost done. And then we'll go into the submissions.
There's fun times. There's fun times.
Yeah, it's just some really hopeful stuff that can be done, really. So, yeah.
Well, I really can't wait to hear what's next. I will have links to the inquiry and submissions. What's the best way for people to contact you if they do need a bit of help?
You can contact us through our webpage. There's an email address there.
Or
you can
Facebook group.
Facebook group or TikToks. There's also the Victorian Cult Survivor Network. We work really heavily hand in hand with them. Renee and Laura and Claire are on that. So the working group is in constant contact with each other. So the Cult Survivor Network is a closed group as well. There's people there that will help you. We just want to make sure everyone's submissions gets forward. And just don't waste this opportunity, please. So
if you're not doing it for you, do it for the children who are trapped in these places, because there are thousands of them who don't have a voice and can't speak.
Yeah.
But all of us have an opportunity to speak now, and we can do it to ensure that no one else gets trapped in these places.
Look, I might never see my family members. I might never have a good relationship with my family that's in the cult ever again, but I could probably sleep better at night knowing that place is safe. There are people that I cared about and still love that are in that place. I think I can make it safer for them. And we got the opportunity to bring a bit of order to this chaotic situation. So, hopefully we can run you out of podcasts. Like, hopefully we can maybe do you out of a job. So
I would be so happy if I could retire the project. That would be amazing.
You've probably got enough still just backlogged.
It would be good to stop cult documentaries being on TV all the time because they've run out of work. But look, I think it's time for it to happen, really. So I don't want another kid to be born into the same situation I was born into. There was no one doing this to me when I was growing up. And it's a lonely experience growing up in a cult. And, there's so many damaged people. There's so many suicides from all these places. There's so many victims. It's been overdue, really.
But now is the time.
Now's the time.
Well, I just want to thank you both again so much, first for taking the time to speak with me, but most of all for all of the work you've done in this space. It's incredibly inspiring. I'm so excited by it, and just a huge thank you.
We're not the only ones working.
It's a massive group effort.
It's a massive group effort. Some great people.
Brian's just on the TikToks.
No. You probably see my face front and centre, but we're all working flat out.
We couldn't have done it alone.
Yeah.
We would have never got. And we would have been slaving away for years trying to find the right path to take.
I think we drove home from the AG's. The Attorney General meeting was quite a powerful meeting, and we could sense that something was going to happen. And I think we had drinks afterwards with Ryan Benlar, and we sort of all looked at each other and were like, wow, this is happening. And we're like, wow, okay, the next step. And I remember me and Catherine going home just looking at each other, all right, this seems to be happening. We'll need help. And, we need to pull in as the best people we can. And it has happened. It has happened. And everyone in this space is just so victim orientated. You watch them care for their own victim group and they're passionate about it. But it's good. There's been very little egos. Everyone's there working as a team, victims front and centre. And watch this space. Really watch it. So, yeah.
I will not be taking my eyes off it.
It's good in a negative space. This place is so negative. Like, talking about cults and that, it is such a draining and negative space to be in because it doesn't feel like you've got anywhere. It feels like it's just more victims, and you listen to people's story, and too long it's been they're there. It's just good to have a bit of traction, a bit of ground, and a bit of fight where we can actually put them on notice.
And the benefit is meeting all these wonderful people.
Oh yeah. So yeah, always really blessed.
I say it all the time. It's like anyone who comes on the podcast who's had an experience in one of these groups and is speaking out, they're speaking out because they want to help other people. They have this amazing motivation and like almost without fail, just incredible people. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You won't survive in this place if you're just doing it for yourself, because it's a lot. It's a lot. But the people that are here in this space that are working hard, like they're doing it because they love the people lost, or they know the victims, or they want change, and it's inspiring to see. So this inquiry, it's going to be big, and yeah, we're down for it, aren't we, Catherine?
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's a lot of work, which is good. It's good work, good problems.
Good work.
Yeah. So,
and I think it'll make a real difference.
Yeah.
It's the most hope for change that I've seen in the years that I've been doing this. So it's incredibly exciting, and just congratulations to the whole team.
Look, the Working Party is sensational. So, and it seems to be drawing in more and more good people. But yeah, look, hats off. Like Laura McConnell, she's been battling away for years. You've seen some that have been battling away for years, and just see them get traction and
just chipping away,
and actually to see that, hey, look, there's a bit of light at the end of this tunnel is just fantastic. So good on the government for taking this on. For too long, it seemed like the impossible task, hasn't it? But we're finally doing that impossible task.
One bite at a time.
Eat the elephant one bite at a time. So yeah.
Turn this one off.
Hey, it's Zoe Marshall from
and share you this screen. Yeah, just that last bit. I just find it so inspiring, and like they're talking about, look, do it for the kids, do it for someone else who couldn't speak up or can't speak up. Yeah. All right, so let's do it, guys. I'm going to show you the inquiry, and it's like I said, it's super quick and easy. I'm going to show you, who can submit, how to do it, and it's going to be quick. So I've just said, if you want to get out a second device, we can go into the website and do it together. So please click on this website. I don't know if I have any mods in. I don't know. I'm on StreamYard. I don't think I do. I don't know how to make someone a mod in StreamYard anyway. Okay. Go to this website, parliament.vic.gov.au/COFG. So inquiry into the recruitment methods and impacts of cults and organised fringe groups. So the snapshot is, the committee is looking into cults and fringe groups in Victoria, how they recruit and control people, and we'll report back by 30th September 2026. This inquiry is not about judging anyone's beliefs. It's about protecting people from harm. We want to understand whether current laws are strong enough to deal with groups that use manipulation or control in ways that can seriously hurt people. The terms of reference are that this House refers an inquiry into cults and organised fringe groups in Victoria, the methods used to recruit and control their members, and the impacts of coercive control to the legal and social issues Standing Committee for consideration. I want to mention again, and it's in the description of this video, that anyone who either, it's really well written in my description, but I can't look at it now. Anyway, we'll get there. Let's have a look at this. My point is anyone can submit because Scientology is in Victoria.
Our inquiry into the recruitment methods and the impacts of cults and organised fringe groups is currently receiving submissions. Thank you to everyone who has taken the time to put forward a submission to date. We understand that privacy is a major concern for many people. Please be assured that all personal information in submissions, including metadata, is carefully removed before anything is published. Submissions are protected by parliamentary privilege. This means that you can't be sued or penalised for anything that you include in your submission. However, if you'd like to discuss the submission or publish it anywhere else, it is not covered by parliamentary privilege. You can ask for your submission to be kept confidential or for your name to be withheld. These options are in place to help everyone feel safe and supported in contributing to this important work. To learn more about making a submission or how parliamentary privilege works, please visit our committee's website. We also have a completely anonymous questionnaire that you can fill in on the website. Once again, thank you to everyone who's made a submission to date. Your thoughts and experiences are really invaluable to our inquiry.
Okay, cool. So I hope you guys are going to do this with me. As I said, it's super quick and easy. So if you want to go to this website, parliament.vic.gov.au .gov.au/COFG. The link is in my description, and I've put it multiple times in the chat, and it's up on the screen in 1 second. There it is. All right, let's do this. So I want to make it, submissions can be made until 31st of July, so not much time left. So if we click on make a submission, let's see. You can go on here and learn more about the confidentiality, blah, 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 all that sort of thing if you want, but it's already pretty well explained back there. So back to this page. So you've got two options here. You've got make a submission, and the share your experience is the quick questionnaire one. So I'm just going to show you this submission one first, if anyone wants to do it this way. So this is the page. And I'll check every now and then if there's any comments or questions from you guys. I hope you're doing it with me. All right, guys, put a 1 in the chat if you're doing it with me. It's so easy, I swear. I'm going to do I think I'm going to do the questionnaire one because I haven't had personal experience, but I just want to show you both either way. So, so I just want to put here, if the committee accepts, so this is the full submission, right? If the committee accepts your submission, your name and submission will be published on the committee's website. Your contact details, including your address, email, and phone number, would not be published. We ask these questions for verification purposes only. If you have reasons to request that your name or submission remain private, you may do so later in the form. So that's that. That's for the full submission. So you don't have to do that. So I'm going to click yes. I've read it. Terms read and understood the above. If I was still, I'm just going to pretend I'm doing it this way. Where did you hear about this inquiry? I heard it from Miriam Francis. So I'm just going to put a friend. My submission is on behalf of an organisation. No. So the only mandatory fields here is first name is going to be Afila and last name is going to be Pinky because that's what I've been named by Fluffer and Tuity. Afila Pinky. I don't have to put my phone number. I'm going to put an email address just so I can get off this page. Afila8@me. I don't have to put an address or a postcode. I don't have to put my age. And then I go on to next step. See you, Manning. Oh, I'm checking the comments now. Oh, Manning says, have to run to get to an event for the homeless. Oh, good on you, Manning. Thanks for being here. I hope you've done your submission, or we'll do it in a moment. And look at these champs doing their submissions with me. This is awesome. And as I said, you can do the questionnaire one. So I'm showing you the full one first. Manning says, great idea for a live stream, I feel it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I think it's really important and really easy because I need motivation sometimes to do these things. So if I show everyone how easy it is. All right, so back to submission. All right, so that says, here's your submission, blah, blah, blah. You can do a PDF, a Word doc, text doc, audio, or video. Oh, if you feel more comfortable with the video. I don't know, I prefer writing because you have time to go back and write out things in a kind of way that makes sense. So once you've written what you want or done a video or an audio, you just upload it. And then it says, are you interested in appearing before the committee in person to talk about your submissions? Oh, that's interesting. So you can do either yes, you can do no. And next step, so if you're doing a submission, go through and check these a bit more thoroughly. I'm not going to go through it too much, but you can say either make my submission public, publish my submission without my name. So this is what Manning was talking about, I think, or don't publish my submission at all. And I think it says, if you don't want to publish at all, please let us know why you would like your submission to be treated as confidential. That's fine. And then you sign it and hit submit. So that's the full submission. And before I go to the questionnaire, I'm going to check my chat again. Chat's all good. All right, let's go back to. All right, so we're back. Scroll back up, guys. if you want to go to the questionnaire section. So we just did make a submission. Now we're going to go to share your experience. So this is where you can do a super quick questionnaire and you can remain anonymous, I believe. We'll go through that. So I'm going to check in with the chat. Are you guys up to this page? All right, do this questionnaire with me if you like. So we've got share your experience, understanding the impacts of cult, organized fringe group, blah, blah, we've read that. As part of its inquiry, the committee needs to understand the impacts caused by cults and organized fringe groups. To achieve this, we want to hear directly from people who have been affected, whether personally or through someone close to them. So it's up to you if you want to submit, but yeah, whether personally or through someone close to you. I mean, I started thinking about this, and even like little experiences that I've had, it's like, oh, I had a cousin and then there was some sort of dodgy thing over here, and so I'm going to do it. This is your opportunity to share your experience in your own words. Your insights will help the committee better understand how cults and similar groups operate, their impacts. Sorry, my voice is getting tired. And what kinds of support or protections might be needed to reduce and prevent harm. Okay, I'm not going to read through all of that. What we do with this information. Okay, I'm going to click on share your experience. Okay, this is our page. Now, it's just this. There's a second page, but that's just to close off. It's just this one page. That's it. So let's do it. I'm going to put in, so it says here, this questionnaire can be completed anonymously. I'm going to type this in the chat just because it's important to note. You can skip any question that you're not comfortable answering. It says, when you submit this form, it will not automatically collect your details like name and email address unless you provide it yourself. All right. So first question, are you sharing this story based on your personal experience, the experience of someone close to you, friend, family member, or prefer not to say? I'm just going to, for the sake of this, I'm just going to say prefer not to say. How did the group or leader first make contact with you or the person you know? This is an interesting one. So the options are through a friend or family member, at a religious or spiritual event, at a community group or class such as yoga, meditation, etc., on social media or online forums. I think that's probably going to become more prevalent. Through a romantic relationship or partner, during a time of personal hardship like illness, stress and grief, at school, university or workplace, door-to-door approach in a public place. What do you guys think? Because I think this is missing. I want to talk about a child who was brought up in it. So I'm thinking of a particular situation that I'm aware of. So I'm going to tick other because there is an option through a family or through a friend or family member, but that sounds more relevant to an adult. So I might tick other and then just say something like child of parents who were in the group. I think that they kind of missed that as a big opportunity. Thanks for being here, guys, by the way. Okay, next question is, which of the following behaviors or experiences occurred in the group? Isolation from family and friends. Yes. Financial control and exploitation. Definitely not getting paid for work. Emotional abuse. Definitely. Physical violence or abuse. Definitely. Mind control techniques or indoctrination. So many things that they were told were just the norm and they're not. Sleep deprivation. Yes. Forced labor or unpaid work. Yes, even as children. Fear-based teachings or apocalyptic beliefs. It's probably like, the end of the world or whatever. But fear-based, I reckon, if you're too fearful to leave the group or, bring up something that you have an issue with. Surveillance or monitoring. Yep. restricted access to educational medical care. No school. No school for kids. Child abuse or neglect, 100%. Loss of personal freedoms like how you dress, your speech, and your movement. Yep, you all had to behave the same and wear the stupid uniform. Pressure to remain in the group or fear of punishment if leaving. Yes, because of family disconnection, because of what's it called, the debt thing that they say that you need to what's the chat saying? Squirrel of Oz. Yes, 100% to all of these. Joe Bananas is way quicker than me, but I'm doing it slowly to show you guys. Like 100% Scientology is all of these things. Pressure to remain in the group, like, oh, if you want to leave, you got to do it the right way, and we'll keep you in for 6 more months. Or fear of having to pay the debt. All of these things, and then you can also add your own, and that's it. And then you can say, what impacts has this experience had on your life or the life of the person you know? You put something if you want. I'm just going to leave that. Is there anything else you'd like to share with that? I'm going to leave that. What is your postcode? I don't have to enter that. Or maybe I do. Let's see. No, I don't. And that's it. That is it. Tick some boxes. They all apply to Scientology. And then the last option is, are you interested in making a further statement or contribution to the committee? If you are, you can leave your email address. If you're not, you don't. And then I submit. That's it. That is it. I don't even have to put my name or email address. Thank you, guys. What are you guys saying? Squirrel of Oz was saying 100% to all those options for Scientology. I'll go back to that page. It's kind of crazy. Just go back to that. What behaviors and experiences occurred? All of them. I'm going to wrap up soon, guys. Let's just go through and check any last comments. Oh gosh, we've been going for 2 hours. Squirrel of Oz, yes to all of them. Joe Bananas said, submitted, keep confidential. Kept confidential. Being part of this movement makes me wary of putting my thoughts out there publicly, name or not. Okay. But it's done, and hope many others do the same. Voices must be heard. Yeah, I love that there is an option for being anonymous. You don't even have to put your email address down there. And yeah, have a look at the page. You'll find the information that you need on the confidentiality stuff. And for the other option, not allowed to inform authorities. Yeah, that's a big one. That's a massive one. Where can you put what cult? I reckon put it in your, there's a bit where you can add more info. Is there anything else you'd like to share? I mean, you can write a whole paragraph here or whatever you want in here. You can say, my friend was in Scientology, she was born into it, blah, 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 blah. You can say all of that. You can also do the full submission if you want, but yeah, that's what I reckon. All right, is there any last questions or comments, guys? Thank you all for being here. I thought that was an amazing interview. Like I said, so many things related to Scientology, so many things I thought were really helpful about, doing it for the kids that are in it, doing it for people who couldn't make it or can't speak out. This is an amazing opportunity. We have parliamentary privilege. Yeah. If you're watching this on replay, please go to the links. All the links are in my description. Have a look. Last thoughts, guys. Thank you for joining me. It's evening here in Australia.